Hello there, everybody. Hollow Leon here, back again, and let me tell you, I've had the hardest time getting this video out. I don't usually have many technical problems. Like, my entire life, I've never had really many issues with electronics, and I think there was like this kind of karma that built up over time, and it all dumped on me at once recently. So I was having tons of issues. I had this virus that I'm gonna explain later. I had to completely wipe my computer and restart it and reinstall everything and restart from scratch. So I've been having a hard time getting this video out, but it is coming out now. This is an all-around thief build for PVE. And just as a disclaimer, before we continue, this is not a raid build. It will cover any kind of content you want to do except for raids. It's not fully min-max for full-on DPS, but it does dish out a lot of DPS for the amount of survivability it has. So this will get you through dungeons, any world bosses, fractals, exploring, just anything PvE related except for your raids. And before I continue as well, let's talk about a new feature I'm going to be putting into all of my videos. It's something that's really simple, but if you don't want to watch this entire build video, you can look down below and skip directly to the portion that you want to see, whether it is the actual build itself, gear stats, etc, etc. But without any further ado, let's continue on into the intro. Alright, I apologize for that longer beginning part, but we are going to get into this build now. But first we will start out with the aesthetics of my character, because it is Fashion Wars, not just Guild Wars. And we will try to make this build video as quick as possible, or as short as possible, I guess is a better word for that. So, Glint's Gaze Mask, this is unfortunately no longer available in the gem store. There are other colors of the same type, and the blue one has come and gone. Oh, I accidentally jumped there, that was interesting. But I got this when it came back into the store during one time because blue is my favorite color and it goes well with everything else that I got going on here. But as of right now, you cannot get this. Maybe it will come back to the store soon. Laystone shoulder pads has this little particle effect that you see here, which I think goes well with everything else. That's why I really enjoy it, because we want as many particle effects as possible, right? Carpus jerkin, chaos gloves. These are, at the time of this video, still available in the gem store if you wish to purchase them with your hard-earned gold or your hard-earned money, either or. And then for the last two, wolf leggings and wolf boots. These are only going to be available to you if you are Norn. These are the tier 3 Norn cultural armors, and the reason I went Norn is because you can get these tattoos as a Norn, which you can't do with any other race, which is unfortunate. Maybe they'll bring that in one day, but I always enjoy putting tattoos on my character, especially when you're gonna have scantily clad women. And then of course the Wings of Ascension. This is just a random piece right now because stats aren't super important in lots of PvE content, and the actual Ascension is on my Mesmer right now because she's the main person I'm doing Fractals with, and it has a boatload of agony resistance on it. And then finally, for the final aesthetic, is this ghostly infusion. Lots of people don't actually know about this, but these blue flames that I have coming off of my character here, that is from the ghostly infusion, not any piece of armor. And this can only be obtained through raids or by being bought on the trading post, and it runs from anywhere from like 240 gold to 300 gold, depending on that +5 stat, which unfortunately I got a drop for toughness. Couldn't have been power. But I'm not complaining because I still enjoy it. It's got the agony resistance and I love the way it looks. And then I have chaos weapons and the auric short bow, because I don't have many good short bow skins, and that's my favorite out of them, at least. So now we'll continue on with the actual stats of the build. I have all Berserker's armor. This will obviously work whether it's ascended or not. Yeah, I don't know what else I was trying to say there. And then we have the Rune of the Scholar. This build is highly based around the lifesteal aspect of it, and keeping your health above 10% or above 90% so you can get this damage bonus along with other damage bonuses and other things within the build. So keeping above 90% is the main goal of this build in general, to be putting out as much damage as possible, and also just because it's nice to be above 90% health and be staying alive. So almost everything is berserkers, and you can definitely run this as full berserkers. I have before, but I have just random pieces in here. Like this one is a marauder. I kept it because it's actually infused, so I can get that extra agony resistance on it. And lots of my agony stuff is on my other character, so this is kind of low right now. In this build specifically, I ran all the way up. I've done level 70 fractals with it. It'll put out just fine. So I do recommend having 2 swords. If you can do ascended, that's cool, but for the longest time I ran this on exotic before I got extended gear, and my ascended sword is on my other character as well, because you can swap those around. But I recommend having 2 swords, 1 or 2 pistols, whichever you want, but 1 set of your weapons have doubles of, so you can have both the 10% damage at night, the Superior Sigil of night, or the Superior Sigil of day that you can swap out depending on whatever you're doing, so you can always have that plus 10% damage bonus. And this is another piece that has random stats, because I have lots of pistols, and this is just the one that has the steel health, and I'm too cheap to buy another one right now because this does well for what it's doing. I'm not doing any really hardcore stuff with it. But you can get an extra steel health here, which I recommend just to get that little bit extra to keep you topped off above 90%. If you really want it though, you could get a Sigil of Force here for just a tiny bit more damage boost, but I opt for the survivability, and staying above 90% also is in turn a 10% damage boost. So this is what I stick with, but you can run either. Like I said, I have a random Marauders here, and if you have full Berserker and you find for some reason you are dying, which hopefully you shouldn't be, then you can swap in something like Barrel Orbs or Valkyrie stat trinkets just to get you a little bit more vitality, because if I was absolute full Berserkers, I'd be sitting a little bit closer to the 12k mark. And then the Auric Shortbow, since I only have one of them, I do Sigil of Force instead of having 2 separate ones and 2 separate sigils as well, and then another steel health on this. And now we will continue on to the actual build, and I'm going to go over, you can also run this build in the vanilla game. If you don't have Heart of Thorns, I'm going to show a secondary option, because I ran this same thing without the Daredevil. Basically since launch I've been playing with this build for a long time. So we'll go over that after we go over everything else. And there's something crazy going on in the background. Oh my goodness. This video doesn't want to be made. I should have gone somewhere else, but I really like this nice little backdrop here, you know? It's pretty tight. Ooh, this looks like a safe spot over here. Alright, sorry about that. I probably should have chosen a different location, but I love this little backdrop right here. I think it's a lot of fun, and this is where I was at anyways, so I was like, why not film the video here? So we'll continue right where we left off. So I go Critical Strikes, Trickery, and Daredevil. So here we go for the first, I guess, attribute that we have here. Has to do with that health threshold again, and when you're above 90%, your critical chance is going to go up by 5%. Deal increased critical strike damage while your health is above the threshold. So once again, you can see where this is playing off that being above 90% to be outputting more damage. Gain Fury when you strike an enemy whose health is below the threshold. This doesn't have to do with us, but it does apply Fury, and we are going to have this up all the time. You're always going to have Fury on. It renews, and then you have this. You'll basically always be striking someone who's below 90% health. Gain Ferocity based on your precision. So that just helps us hit a little bit harder when we crit, which is going to be quite often. Gain increased critical damage against foes who have health above the threshold. So an extra 10% boost there for anyone above 50% health. Landing a critical hit while under the effects of Fury increases the duration of Fury. Gain increased Ferocity while under the effects of Fury. So you're always going to have Fury on because of this, and then this is going to be renewing the duration of it and giving you extra ferocity. So you're going to be critting more because of this, and your crits are going to hit harder because of this trait. So I don't recommend changing anything in critical strikes. Then for trickery, gives you 2 extra initiative. Or stealing gives you 2 extra initiative, which, I mean, you can't change anyway, but it's always good to have that extra initiative and steal when you need it. So here, you can choose any one of these if you want. I like doing Thrill of the Crime for my own utility and utility for my teammates if I have them. This is just what I've run forever, but you could do Haste. It does give you a bigger damage output if you play it correctly, and then if you wanted Caltrops, you could for whatever reason. This isn't that big of a trait, not that big of a deal. Increase maximum initiative by 3. More initiative, more stuff to do, and more damage if... Increase damage and condition damage per initiative spent, and your steel recharges faster. So for more of these spent, the more damage you're going to do. Condition damage isn't really important for us, but you have a tiny bit, and you do deal conditions every once in a while. Stealing grants you and all nearby allies vigor. So this is great because vigor is great, so we can dodge more. That's what the Daredevil is all about. This is also kind of up to you, but I like having the reduced recharge of steel, so you can get extra initiative, extra boons. I think this is the best bet. But if you really wanted to apply confusion people, you could. And if you wanted to gain initiative on weapon swapping while in combat, you could also do that. But for this build, unless we're doing world bosses or big event chains, you're basically going to stay on sword and pistol most of the time, unless you're in real danger. So Daredevil, you can use a staff if you want, and you get your extra endurance here. Obviously, that's what Daredevil does. Havoc Mastery, deal increased damage to enemies within the range threshold. We are using a sword, so obviously they're always going to be within that range threshold. And I don't really recommend changing this. If you really wanted to, you could go with Brawler's Tenacity, reduces the cooldown of your bandit's defense, but I find that this is always up whenever I need it, basically. Gain health when you successfully evade an attack, which should be quite often, so that's another way to help keep your 90% health threshold. Remove a condition whenever you evade attack, which should happen quite often, so you have a pretty good amount of Condi removal. Gain endurance when you successfully steal from an enemy, so your steal will give you both initiative and endurance. Great. And here you have an option again. So Lotus Trading, this is what I take most of the time if you know you're going to be clearing lots of mobs and whatnot, because every time you dodge, it'll shoot out these little daggers, and our heal is Signet of Malice, so all around you it'll be hitting everything around you and giving you little burst heals every single time you dodge. So you're going to be mitigating damage by evading, and you're going to be gaining your health back every time you dodge with this. But if you're just doing like the meta events, world bosses and stuff, and you just want to get around faster or have a bigger dodge radius, that's what's great about dash, is you can dodge farther, and you get extra swiftness stacked on. You can take this as well, but lots of the time I am running with this to get that extra healing. So really quick into the vanilla spec, you either should go Shadow Arts or Acrobatics. Shadow Arts is only really beneficial if you have stealth in the build, and this build doesn't deal in stealth. It's all about in-your-face damage and constantly healing. But with Shadow Arts, if you are revealed, which means you were in stealth and you came out of it before the stealth duration was up, you are revealed during that time and you'll get 200 extra power. And that's the only reason you would really want to take this, but as I said before, this build doesn't deal in stealth. If you changed it so that it did, then you can go ahead and take this, but I recommend Acrobatics because you're not really going to see a DPS increase because of one of the traits we have in here, and it adds to your survivability. So we'll go over this really quick. Gain swiftness upon dodging, which is good if you don't have Daredevil, because you won't have that dash dodge, which gives you swiftness. So this way you still get swiftness upon dodging. Here I usually go with Pain Response for a little bit extra Condi removal, but you could also go with Instant Reflexes to gain evasion when struck below the threshold in case you're ever in a oh shit moment, but you shouldn't be getting below 50% too much unless you're just way outnumbered. Gain Vigor upon successfully evading an attack. This is another reason I opt for Acrobatics instead of Shadow Arts. Because you aren't a Daredevil, you're not going to be able to dodge as much, but this helps mitigate that loss of dodging. because you're going to have endurance up or vigor up quite often, and be regaining your endurance faster so that you can dodge more often. Swindler's Equilibrium. This is a pretty obvious choice because we're running with a sword. So this can reduce your steel by a static amount, and it gives you a flat 7% DPS increase while you're wielding the sword. The effects of vigor on you are enhanced. Again, that feeds back into being able to dodge more, which is why I opt for this option. And then gain initiative and regeneration when you evade attack, which is quite often, as I've said a couple times now. So you're going to be getting more survivability with all that health regen, and you should be getting a pretty good amount of initiative regeneration as well. So that is the vanilla build. I'm going to switch back to Daredevil real quick for the purposes of this video. And now we'll go over skills really quick. You're mainly going to be using your pistol whip because, as you can see there, the damage times 8. So you hit 8 times, and this has also got like a small conal radius, AoE radius in front of you. So you can hit multiple enemies at once, and you're just going to be burst healing all the time, and you're going to be dealing a pretty significant amount of damage too. And if you ever need to daze a target, your number 4 can do that, and your number 5 is a blind. The other thing that can be useful is Infiltrator Strike if you're fighting a boss that you know has like AoE ring attacks around them. The only one that comes to mind, because this is where I learned this trick, is in Citadel of Flame Path 3. The boss there has an AoE attack, and you can go in with this, so you have that that 900 range to go in and attack from the outside of where you know that AoE attack is going to be, and you can be dealing your damage, and whenever you know that the boss is going to do the attack, you can press this again, and it pulls you right out of it without wasting a dodge. It also is a lot faster, and this has saved my ass a couple of times. So the heal obviously is Signet of Malice, and you can use this whether you're Heart of Thorns expansion or not. Signet of Agility, you can really choose whatever you want here if you wanted more power instead, but I really like the extra precision, so we can crit more often. And then on top of that, this is good for like oh shit situations. If you're out of endurance, you can pop this, and you got a guaranteed extra 2 dodges if you're in trouble. Shadow Step to get out of trouble again, and for stun breaks, there's tons of stuns and endgame content, and then this for the same as a stun break if you're ever knocked down or whatever, but also to mitigate just tons of damage. This is an amazing skill, and I love this. If you don't have Heart of Thorns, you can fill this with whatever. Dagger Storm is what I recommend for most of the PVE content, especially for things where you're going to be clearing lots of mobs, because this is a great burst heal if there's more than a couple enemies around you. If there's only one, this is probably going to actually screw you over. But if you have lots of enemies around you and you pop this, your health will go from 10% to full. It heals you so fast, it's crazy. The only other thing I'd ever really recommend using is Basilisk Venom if you need another CC for breaker bars or whatever. And lastly, we will go over food. Oh sweet, the duration wore off since we started this video. So I'll show you right now. Our critical hit chance is at 54%, and keep in mind this is without Fury, and you're gonna have a Fury uptime of all the time. I won't give it a percentage, but you're basically always gonna have Fury up. So I opt for peppermint oils, and the reason is because this is a lot cheaper than the alternative on the trading post, which is tuning crystals. They cost a lot more. This is way cheaper, and you get the plus 10% karma boost, which is always nice. So if we pop this, we go from 54% critical hit chance to 59% critical hit chance. And then the next is scoops of mint berry swirl ice cream. These are also really cheap on the trading post and really complement this build. It also has the plus 10% karma, which is great. So this gives you another 66% chance to steal life on critical, along with your sigil that you have. So this is just another way to keep your 90% health threshold up at all times. And it gives you a little bit more precision, so you can crit a little bit more often. So we go from 59% to 62%, almost 63%. So with Fury, you're going to be critting a lot, and your crits are going to be hitting really hard. And this doesn't even include your multiplier for when you have Fury on you. So that's the food. We will do a really quick demonstration. Another reason I'm in Bloodstone Fen isn't just for the cool backdrop that we got here, but because things in Heart of Thorns, and in this map especially, well, in all the new content maps, things hit really hard, so this is a good place to demonstrate how this build can really keep you alive. So, alright, sorry about that. Took me a while to even get into a decent fight, but you can see the kind of burst healing that this build has right here. When we started, we were about to die. We got back up with just a couple dodges and basic attacks. Oh my goodness.
Might makes me
and I had to change my controls too. They were messing me up. Hopefully I can get that fixed pretty soon. But you can see even just from auto attacks, you're going to be getting a good amount of health back. And it's kind of a no-brainer build. But I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it too. Sorry I didn't have a better combat demonstration there. But I just wanted to show you real quickly what it could do. So you should try it out yourself. See if you enjoy it. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving a thumbs up or a subscribe. And I hope I'll be seeing you again in the future.